Emma's Saturday mornings always started early. She liked the quiet before the world woke up. The way sunlight crept softly through the living room windows, turning the dust in the air into sparkling golden motes. Today, like every weekend, she had a long list of chores: vacuuming, laundry, dishes, and straightening the clutter that inevitably accumulated over the week. She hummed a gentle tune, moving from room to room, wiping surfaces and organizing shelves, lost in the rhythm of her routine. It was during these quiet, meditative moments that she often thought about her family, her husband David, always busy with work, and her stepson Ethan, who had come home from college for the weekend. Ethan was polite, serious, and thoughtful, but Emma knew him as a young man carrying unspoken worries. She sometimes wondered what went on in his head, what thoughts he didn't share with his father, as she bent down to straighten the cushions on the sofa. She heard the soft creak of the stairs. Ethan's presence was usually quiet, and today he appeared unusually hesitant. "Hey, Emma," he called softly. She straightened up, glancing at him with a warm smile. "Yes, Ethan. What's up?" He carried a basket of laundry, his hands gripping it as if it were heavier than it really was. His expression was a mix of nervousness and uncertainty. I can help with the laundry, if you want." Emma was slightly taken aback. Ethan had rarely offered to help with household chores. She tried not to let her surprise show. "That would be great," she said, gesturing for him to place the basket on the sofa. "Thanks, Ethan." As he came closer, Emma noticed a tension in his shoulders, the way he avoided meeting her eyes at first. There was something he wanted to say, she could tell, but he didn't know how to begin. She folded a towel and tried to appear casual, hoping to give him space to speak. Finally, he looked up, his voice soft and hesitant. "While you're cleaning, could I ask you something?" Emma paused, her heart catching not from fear, but from curiosity. The phrasing was unusual. "Of course," she said gently. "What is it?" He shifted his weight, clearly nervous, and finally spoke. I need advice. Life stuff. I don't want to bother anyone else, and you always seem to know what to do." Emma felt a rush of relief. The request was innocent, even heartfelt. She smiled softly. "You're never a bother, Ethan. Whatever it is, we can talk about it." Ethan sat on the edge of the sofa, his hands fidgeting with the basket. "College. It's confusing. I don't know if I'm making the right choices, classes, friends, even what I want to do in the future. Sometimes I feel completely lost." Emma nodded knowingly. She remembered feeling the same way at his age, the pressure, the fear of failing, the anxiety of stepping into the unknown. "I get it," she said softly. "It's normal to feel lost sometimes. But the important thing is that you're asking for guidance." "That's brave." His shoulders relaxed slightly, and a small tentative smile appeared. "Really? You think it's brave?" "I do," Emma confirmed, her voice warm. "Asking for help shows that you care about making the right decisions. Let's figure it out together, step by step." What started as a simple household chore turned into a meaningful conversation. They folded laundry together, each shirt and sock offering a rhythm to their discussion. Ethan spoke openly about his doubts and fears, about courses he thought he might like and friends he was unsure about. Emma listened carefully, giving gentle advice, asking questions that made him think, helping him organize his thoughts. She noticed subtle changes in him, even in that short morning. His voice gained confidence as he explained his worries, and his eyes seemed lighter, less burdened. Emma felt a deep sense of fulfillment. She was helping someone she cared about navigate life's challenges. It wasn't dramatic or shocking, but it was real. Intimate in the way only trust and honesty could be. The moment was interrupted by the distant sound of the front door opening. David was home from his business trip. Emma's pulse quickened. Slightly, she knew he would be walking through the house any minute. But she glanced at Ethan, and their shared glance carried a quiet understanding. Nothing inappropriate had occurred. The connection between them was emotional, human, and supportive. Ethan stood, carrying the neatly folded laundry upstairs. "Thanks, Emma," he said quietly. "I didn't think anyone would really understand." "You're never alone," she replied. Smiling warmly, Emma lingered in the living room, taking in the sunlight and the quiet that had returned after his departure. A small, unassuming moment, the folding of clothes, a shared conversation had revealed something profound. Sometimes, she thought, life's most meaningful interactions came from the simplest, most unexpected opportunities. A quiet Saturday morning, a hesitant question, and a willingness to listen had created a bond she hadn't anticipated but deeply valued as she looked around the tidy room. Her mind wandered to the days ahead. She realized that life often caught people off guard. Challenges arose, decisions had to be made, and relationships evolved in ways no one could predict. What mattered most was the willingness to show empathy, to listen and to support those who needed it. The sound of David's footsteps approaching reminded her that her role as a guiding presence in Ethan's life was now part of a larger story, one that included the entire family. Yet, for that brief morning, it had been just the two of them, connected in a quiet, powerful way. Emma returned to her cleaning, her movements deliberate and thoughtful. Her mind replayed Ethan's words, his small gestures, his quiet vulnerability. She felt a sense of purpose, a reminder that even ordinary tasks could become extraordinary when approached with care, patience, and attention. And as the morning sun continued to spill into the living room, she couldn't shake the feeling that this simple moment, the laundry, the conversation, the unexpected request, was only the beginning. Something had shifted, subtle but undeniable, and she knew that their bond, built on trust and guidance, would influence the days to come in ways she could not yet see. The door clicked behind David, and Emma straightened, smoothing her apron, her thoughts still lingering on Ethan. She knew there were more conversations ahead, more opportunities to guide, to teach, to connect. But for now, she savored the quiet satisfaction of having been there when it mattered, of having been trusted, and of having made a small difference in someone else's life. And as she glanced at the stairs, imagining Ethan carrying the basket up and thinking about his struggles, she realized one thing: life often surprises you, and sometimes the smallest, simplest moments can carry the deepest lessons. Little did she know, the rest of the day would bring a moment even more unexpected, a situation that would test both patience and understanding, and force her to navigate the delicate balance between guidance, trust, and personal boundaries. Emma took a deep breath and returned to her cleaning, unaware that this seemingly ordinary Saturday was about to turn into a story she would never forget. After their quiet morning, Emma thought the day would continue in its usual rhythm. The sunlight streamed through the windows, dust motes dancing lazily in the warm air. She had just finished vacuuming the living room when she heard the soft thud of Ethan's footsteps upstairs. He had been quiet all morning, his usual confidence slightly tempered by the conversations they'd had. She wondered what was going through his mind. Emma busied herself with the dishes in the kitchen, listening to the faint sounds of Ethan moving around upstairs. There was a calmness in the house that day, a sense of anticipation she couldn't quite explain. It was a rare Saturday, free of errands and work obligations, and she intended to make the most of it. Yet beneath her calm exterior, a quiet tension lingered. She knew that when Ethan was home, small moments could turn into meaningful interactions, sometimes catching her completely off guard. A soft knock came from the kitchen door, and Emma turned to see Ethan standing there. His posture was slightly hesitant, as if he had been rehearsing what he wanted to say. "Hey, Emma," he said quietly. "Do you have a minute?" "Of course," she replied warmly, wiping her hands on a towel. "What's on your mind?" Ethan stepped inside, carrying a small notebook. I wanted to ask for your opinion. About something personal. I didn't know who else to turn to." Emma felt a flicker of concern mixed with curiosity. Personal, he had always been polite and careful about boundaries. Yet there was something in his tone that made her realize he truly needed guidance. She gestured for him to sit at the small kitchen table. "Sit down. Tell me about it." He hesitated a moment, taking a deep breath, then opened the notebook. It was filled with sketches, notes, and half-formed ideas. Emma leaned over to glance at the pages, recognizing the thoughtfulness and effort behind each entry. "You've been working on this for a while," she said softly. Ethan nodded. "Yeah, it's for a project, but it's more than that. It's about figuring out what I really want, what I'm passionate about. I've been confused, and I wasn't sure who could really understand." Emma smiled, feeling a sense of pride. The boy had grown into a thoughtful, sensitive young man, even if he sometimes struggled with self-doubt. "I understand," she said, "and I'm glad you came to me. Let's take a look together." They spend the next hour discussing his ideas, his dreams, and his fears. Emma asked questions, suggested alternatives, and encouraged him to think about his goals in concrete steps. It wasn't just about the project, it was about Ethan finding confidence in his own choices. As they talked, she noticed the way his expression softened, the way his eyes lit up when he found clarity in her words. Then, unexpectedly, Ethan asked a question that made her pause. "Emma, would you ever help me practice something?" She blinked, caught off guard by the vagueness of his request. "Practice something? What do you mean?" He fidgeted, clearly nervous. "It's for a presentation. I need someone to give feedback. I don't want to embarrass myself in front of the class." Emma's heart relaxed. It was a simple request, but she understood the significance. To him, asking for help was a vulnerable act. She nodded. "Of course, Ethan. I'd be happy to help." They moved to the living room, where Emma sat on the couch while Ethan stood nervously, reading from his notebook. She offered gentle guidance, pointing out areas where he could speak more clearly or emphasize important points. Each suggestion was met with a nod, each correction with gratitude. The atmosphere was supportive, filled with quiet encouragement. As the practice session continued, Emma realized how much Ethan had grown. His voice was steadier than she expected, and his confidence blossomed with each rehearsal. She felt a deep sense of satisfaction, not from authority or control, but from being trusted, from helping someone she cared about navigate a moment of vulnerability. After several rounds, Ethan sat down beside her, breathing heavily from both nervousness and effort. "Thanks, Emma. I didn't know anyone would actually take the time." "You're welcome," she replied warmly. "You did all the hard work yourself. I just helped guide you a little." They shared a quiet moment, the kind that only comes after genuine effort and shared vulnerability. Emma thought about the bond that had formed over the simple acts of listening and helping. It wasn't dramatic or sensational, but it was deeply human, a connection built on trust, respect, and understanding. Just as Emma began to stand, ready to return to her chores, there was a knock at the front door. David's voice followed shortly after. "Emma, are you home?" Emma's pulse quickened slightly. The timing was perfect and yet unexpected. "I'm here," she called, a calm tone masking her curiosity. She glanced at Ethan, who froze for a moment, its expression unreadable. David walked in, carrying a briefcase and a small grocery bag. He looked tired but happy to be home. "I thought I'd surprise you," he said with a smile. "How's your day been?" Emma smiled warmly. "Good, busy with chores, but productive. Ethan's been helping me with the laundry and projects." David's eyes flicked to Ethan, then back to Emma. "That's great. I appreciate both of you. It's nice to see you two getting along." Ethan nodded quietly, his earlier nervousness fading slightly. But as David set down his groceries and turned to unpack, Emma noticed a subtle shift in Ethan's demeanor, a mix of relief and anticipation. Something in the way he carried himself suggested that the day's events had affected him more than she realized. Emma returned to her cleaning, trying to maintain normalcy while keeping a careful watch on the interactions around her. The house was alive with the quiet rhythms of family life, the clinking of dishes, the murmur of conversation, the occasional laughter that punctuated their mundane routines. Yet beneath it all, a tension lingered, subtle but undeniable, hinting at something more to come. As the afternoon sun moved across the living room floor, Ethan approached Emma again. "Hey, can I ask you one more thing?" he said, a nervous energy in his voice. Emma paused, glancing at him. "Of course. What is it?" He took a deep breath. I think I need help with confidence. Not just for the presentation, but for life. I don't know how to explain it, but sometimes I feel like I freeze up. You seem so calm and sure. I want to learn that. Emma's heart swelled with empathy. It was a natural human desire to want guidance from someone experienced, someone trustworthy. Ethan, she said gently, confidence isn't something you're born with. It's something you build step by facing challenges and learning from them. And I'll help you however I can. He smiled, a genuine, relieved smile. Thanks, Emma. That means a lot. They spent the rest of the afternoon working on exercises to build his confidence speaking aloud. Organizing thoughts, role-playing situations he might encounter at school. Emma offered encouragement, correcting only when necessary, always careful to maintain a respectful, supportive environment. With each exercise, Ethan's posture improved. His voice grew steadier. And a sense of calm determination settled over him. By evening, the sun had dipped low, casting long shadows across the living room. Ethan was noticeably more confident, his earlier hesitation replaced by a quiet assurance. Emma felt a deep sense of fulfillment, knowing she had played a part in this transformation, not by controlling or directing, but by guiding and supporting Dot as they cleaned up their workspace. Ethan paused and looked at her. I know it sounds silly, but I feel like I can handle things better now. Thanks for believing in me. You're welcome, she replied softly. Believing in yourself is the most important part. I just helped you see it. The quiet of the evening settled over the house, wrapping Emma and Ethan in a shared sense of accomplishment. Yet, even as she finished her chores, Emma couldn't shake the feeling that the day's events were leading to something unexpected. A subtle energy lingered in the air, hinting at a challenge or moment that would test both her empathy and understanding. And as she looked toward the stairs where Ethan had retreated, she realized that life often surprises people in ways they never anticipate. What began as a simple request for advice had evolved into a day of meaningful growth, subtle connection, and quiet revelation. Emma knew that the story of this Saturday was far from over, and that the next moments would bring decisions and interactions that could change the dynamics of their household forever. The evening air settled softly through the open windows, carrying a gentle breeze that rustled the curtains. Emma wiped her hands on a towel, her mind still on the day's events. Ethan had retreated upstairs, but she sensed he wasn't finished with his questions or requests. Something in his energy suggested that the quiet moments were only the calm before the next wave of conversation. She tried to focus on dinner preparations, chopping vegetables while listening to the distant hum of the city outside. Moments later, Ethan appeared in the doorway, holding his notebook like a shield and a tool all at once. Emma, he said, his voice quieter than usual. Can I ask one more thing? Emma looked up, sensing the earnestness in his tone. Of course, Ethan. What is it? He hesitated, fidgeting with the notebook. It's personal. About confidence. About being able to talk to people without feeling stuck. Emma gestured for him to sit at the kitchen table. She smiled softly, reassuring him. We can work on that together. Tell me exactly what's troubling you. He opened the notebook and pointed to a page filled with notes and doodles. I've tried speaking in front of class before, but I get nervous. I don't want to fail, and I don't want people to laugh. I don't know how to keep calm. Emma nodded. She recognized the fear all too well. Public speaking, even for young adults, could feel like standing on a stage without a safety net. She leaned closer, placing her hands on the table. Ethan, nerves are natural. Everyone feels them. What matters is learning how to channel that energy into focus and confidence. He glanced at her, absorbing the reassurance in her tone. But how do I do that? I've tried before, but I just freeze. Emma considered his words carefully. She wanted him to feel empowered, not controlled. Step by step, she said gently. First, let's focus on breathing. Deep breaths can help steady your mind. Then we'll break your speech into small parts so you can practice each one until it feels comfortable. I'll be here the whole time, the next hour. They worked together. Ethan practiced speaking aloud, stumbling over a few words at first, then slowly gaining clarity. Emma gave guidance without taking over, offering encouragement and subtle corrections. She noted the way his shoulders gradually relaxed, how his voice grew steadier, and how a quiet determination replaced the earlier hesitation at one point. Ethan paused, running a hand through his hair. "I feel different," he admitted. "Like I can actually do this. I never thought I could." Emma smiled, her heart warming at the sight. "You can, Ethan. You just needed to see that for yourself. Confidence isn't about perfection. It's about trusting yourself even when you feel nervous." As they continued practicing, the connection between them grew deeper. Built not on authority or hierarchy, but on trust and mutual respect. Emma realized how meaningful it was for him to have someone believe in him without judgment. Each corrected sentence, each encouraging word, strengthened a bond rooted in empathy and understanding, just as Ethan began to feel fully comfortable with his speech. The front door opened. David had returned from running errands earlier than expected, carrying a few grocery bags and wearing a tired but content smile. "Hey, I thought I'd come back a little early," he said warmly. Emma looked up, hiding the notebook behind her. Ethan stiffened slightly, but the moment passed quickly. "Hi, David," Emma said, smiling. "We've been practicing some things together." David's eyes flicked toward Ethan, a quiet understanding passing between them. "That's great. I'm glad you're spending time together. You two seem to have a good rhythm." Emma nodded. She watched Ethan's subtle relaxation as David settled into the living room. Though the house now felt fuller, the energy remained calm, focused, and supportive. She was proud of Ethan, proud that he had faced his anxieties and taken a meaningful step forward. Later, as the kitchen lights dimmed and the evening grew darker, Emma and Ethan sat side by side on the couch, reflecting on the day. "I feel different now," Ethan said quietly. "Like I can face things without panicking. Thanks for helping me." "You did it yourself, Ethan," she replied softly. "I just helped guide you. Confidence comes from within, and you discovered that today." They shared a comfortable silence, the kind that comes after deep conversation and personal growth. The room was filled with the quiet hum of the city outside, the soft ticking of the clock, and the warmth of shared understanding. Emma realized that moments like these, simple, supportive, meaningful, were more powerful than she had ever anticipated. As the night wore on, Ethan prepared to leave for his room. "Emma," he said, pausing at the doorway, I appreciate everything today. I don't think I've ever felt so supported." "You're welcome," she said with a gentle smile. "Remember, you can always ask for guidance. Everyone needs it at times." He nodded, retreating upstairs with a newfound confidence in his step. Emma watched him go, feeling a quiet satisfaction that went beyond simple accomplishment. It was about trust, empathy, and the human connections that shape who we are. Finally alone, Emma reflected on the day's events. What had started as a simple request for help had evolved into a day of shared learning, mutual respect, and personal growth. She realized that emotional bonds built on encouragement, guidance, understanding were just as transformative as any dramatic or life-changing moment. The house grew still as the night deepened. Emma cleaned up the remaining dishes, her mind tracing the steps of the day, the laughter, the nervous energy, and the quiet triumphs. She thought about Ethan's progress, the trust he had placed in her, and the subtle ways their relationship had strengthened, and as she finally settled into a chair with a warm cup of tea, she felt a deep sense of contentment. Life often surprised her in small, unexpected ways, moments that carried weight not through spectacle, but through quiet significance. Today had been one of those days. Emma looked toward the staircase where Ethan had disappeared. A smile touched her lips as she realized that, sometimes, the most meaningful connections are forged not in grand gestures, but in shared time, patience, and understanding. Outside, the night sky stretched endlessly, filled with stars that sparkled faintly over the quiet neighborhood. Emma felt a sense of peace, knowing that the day had brought growth, confidence, and trust not just for Ethan, but for herself as well. The evening had been transformative in subtle, profound ways. leaving her with a renewed sense of purpose and empathy. And as the house finally settled into complete silence, Emma understood the truth. Some days are not defined by dramatic events, but by the small, steady acts of guidance and encouragement that shape hearts and minds. Today, she had witnessed such a day unfold, and it would remain in her memory as a quiet victory of trust, connection, and emotional growth.